Well, I'm Charlotte Lorraine Solum.
And you go by?
Lorraine. I don't know why my parents did that, except my dad was in World War I and he wore the Lorraine Cross on his uniform. I don't know if that ever had anything to do with it or not. We're in Blackhammer Township, about 3 miles north of Spring Grove, Minnesota.
So how about the history of those spoons on the wall?
Well, the big one in the center was the Ambur Solum, your great-grandmother's flour bin spoon. And the chest that's up in the attic in the granary was the flour bin. They used to go down to Scheck's mill to grind wheat. The one on the right is from my grandma. My grandmother, Haugie, was a Richardson, and her dad made that spoon for her. And the other one is my mother's butter. I don't know what you call it. When you make churn butter, that's what you use to get the water out of the butter.
And then Dad, for Christmas, to give to Ma, was always a plate. It was easy to buy Christmas presents for her.
Yeah, he'd always ask me, what do you want for Christmas? And I'd always say, a mink coat, a Cadillac. We'd go through this every year. I never knew what I wanted for Christmas. And then one year I said, you know, this is ridiculous. I would like to collect plates, those horse ground plates. So he bought me one, and he didn't have to fuss with what.
You didn't have to buy a Cadillac or a mink coat.
In fact, when I was first working on my own, I went and paid down money to hold a fur coat, whether I should decide whether I should buy it or not. And I decided that's nuts. Then I'd have to wear that coat for years and years and years.
I know when my dad, he always said he started milking when he was 13, so both Jim and I had to start milking on the day of our birthday. And that was one of the things that he started, so his boys are going to start at age 13. So, well, at the time it seemed exciting, you know, a little more responsibility. Otherwise, you're just feeding calves and pitching manure.
I didn't have to start learning how to milk when I turned 13 because Mom wouldn't let me. She told my dad that I was not going to be milking cows. I think it was because she figured I'd end up milking cows all the time when they were in the field. So instead I was in the field.
I think you enjoyed being in the field more than you would milking, right?
Yeah.
I have to tell you something. When I was first married, my husband and I belonged to Farm Bureau. And go to Farm Bureau meetings when they was held in people's home. I'd walk in and the conversation would stop dead. Maybe you shouldn't put this on either. But anyway.
You were a Spring Grovian.
I was a Spring Grove one. I wasn't from Blackhammer. The conversation, I used to wonder what they were talking about. But they were very guarded that way.
They were the only family lived that far south of Blackhammer to belong in it, so.
Yeah.
So you were an outsider.
I used to laugh. I'd come home, and I told Ellen, I said, well, you notice now, the next time you go, sure enough, he had to agree with me. But that changed over the period of the time.
Mom and Dad always did on a summer Sunday afternoon, go to church, have dinner, Dad take a half-hour nap and throw everybody in the car and drive country roads.
Find a strange road and see where it comes out.
Yeah.
We used to go a lot down by the river, Mississippi. I know one Sunday afternoon, we came home, had lunch, and took off for a drive. We ended up in Illinois.
I think I drove the truck when I learned how to drive the truck when I was 9 years old. Dad took me out to the hayfield and drove around.
Follow the combine around. And then when I was in high school, I started driving to town. Probably I was 14 years old. The basketball games and that. Parked in Grandpa and Grandma's driveway, a couple blocks into town, and then walked the rest of the way.
And all you had to do was have a sack of feed in the back, and
But same with me on my farmer's permit, you know, you're not supposed to drive it after hours, after dark. But I would go up, same thing, park at Grandma's and walk uptown. But at that time, we had a cop, the chief of police just lived a block away. So he would, when I went to the games, was always about the time he was coming off from supper. So he would pick me up and give me a ride up to the school. And he knew.
I did the same thing, going in for games, parking at Grandpa and Grandma's and walking. But I had my sack of feed in the back.
Og kjente rundt kjellan bodde I dalen imellom to fjell. Han hadde ei kjerring og kunde vel hun kunne horken lese eller skriva, men kjente på en Kjell. Og Kjell han ble vill, han satt seg hos katta det kvareste natta, til månen gikk opp den lystige kropp. Han kveikja på pipa og tralla og sang, den natta var lang.